What if I told you that the real reason your erections have weakened after 60 has nothing to do with aging, low testosterone, or performance anxiety, and that the solution could begin working inside your body in less than 24 hours? Not from a pill, not from a surgery, but from something sitting in your kitchen right now. A simple white powder most men use to clean their refrigerator or soothe heartburn. Baking soda. I know that sounds absurd, even offensive, but stay with me, because what I'm about to say could change everything. Because if you're over 60, you've probably felt that slow, humiliating shift. Waking up without morning erections for the first time. Feeling your body fail you at the exact moment when intimacy matters most. Staring at the ceiling, wondering what happened to the man you were. Pretending nothing is wrong while quietly carrying shame, frustration, and fear of disappointing someone you love. It's not just physical, it hits your pride, your confidence, your identity. And society tells you to accept it, to fade quietly, to call it normal aging. But what if everything you believe about performance decline is wrong? What if the problem isn't lack of desire, but lack of blood flow? What if your body isn't broken, just chemically out of balance? And what if restoring that balance could trigger a dramatic return of strength, energy, and morning power faster than you ever imagined? Because in a moment, I'm going to reveal how thousands of men over 60 are using a simple morning combination with baking soda to stimulate circulation, oxygen, and nitric oxide. The exact biological switch your body uses to create an erection. And why many report feeling the difference within days. My name is Dr. Mohit Kara, board-certified urologist with over 30 years dedicated to men's health. And today, I'm going to show you the science behind it. Before we go any further, if you're serious about rebuilding your strength, your confidence, and the man you know you still are, take a moment to subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, I release science-based guidance specifically for men over 60 who refuse to give up on their health or their masculinity. And if this message is already striking a chord, type 1 in the comments so I know you're with me. If you're unsure, type 0 and tell me what you're struggling with most. Your feedback shapes what I teach next. Now, let's get into the truth that almost no doctor talks about. Why men really lose performance after 60, and how a simple change inside your bloodstream can flip the switch back on. 1. The hidden chemistry shift. After 60. Most men believe their performance declines because they're getting older. They blame age, they blame stress, they blame themselves. But what if I told you that the real reason your body stopped responding has nothing to do with age at all, and everything to do with an invisible chemical shift happening inside you right now? A shift so silent, so gradual, that you never saw it coming until one day you realized something was gone. The strength, the confidence, the certainty that when the moment came, your body would rise with you. I speak to men every single day who describe the same moment. Waking up one morning and realizing their morning reaction was no longer there. At first, they shrug it off. Maybe it's just stress, maybe tiredness, but weeks turn into months, and that small change becomes a weight on the chest. The bedroom that once felt alive becomes quiet. The laughter becomes forced. The man in the mirror feels like a stranger, someone older, someone fading, someone who has lost something he can't quite name. And inside, the questions begin. What is wrong with me? Am I still the man I used to be? Is this the beginning of the end? Here is the shocking truth that almost no one is telling you. It's not desire that disappears. It's not masculinity fading. It's not failure. What's really happening is that after 60, your internal chemistry gradually becomes more acidic. Your blood thickens. Your vessels stiffen. The pathway that once carried oxygen and blood with force becomes narrow and restricted. And the muscles responsible for an erection, the very foundation of male confidence, are left starving for fuel, not broken, not weak, starved. This silent chemical shift is the first domino. It happens long before performance declines, long before intimacy becomes stressful, long before confidence begins to crack. It explains why so many men tell me, my mind wants to, but my body doesn't respond, because the engine is still there, but the fuel can't reach it. And once you understand that the problem is not age, but chemistry, everything changes. Because chemistry can be corrected, flow can be restored, and strength can return in ways that feel nothing short of rebirth. Now that you understand the true beginning of decline, let me show you the real enemy most men never even realize is destroying their performance from the inside out, and why correcting this one overlooked factor could change everything. 2. Blood flow. Collapse, the real reason strength disappears. Here's something most men never hear until it's too late. Erections are not a problem of masculinity, desire, or even testosterone. They are a problem of blood flow. If blood cannot rush in, rise with force, and stay there, nothing happens, no matter how strong your mind or your will may be. That's why performance isn't about wanting it enough, it's about whether your body can deliver. And after 60, for millions of men, that delivery system quietly begins to fail. One of my patients once told me, "Doctor, I feel the desire like a fire inside me, but when the moment comes, my body is empty. There's nothing there." His voice cracked when he said it, because the pain wasn't physical, it was emotional. It was the feeling of being trapped inside a body that no longer listened. That moment, more than any lab result or medical chart, says everything. What's really happening inside the body at that moment is brutal in its simplicity. When blood vessels stiffen, when circulation slows, when oxygen falls, the body can no longer create or sustain pressure. It's like trying to fill a balloon through a clogged straw. No matter how hard you push, nothing builds. The body wants to respond. The brain sends the signal, the nerves fire, but without flow, the response collapses before it ever begins. And men blame themselves. They say, "Maybe I'm failing, maybe I'm broken, maybe I'm not enough anymore." But the truth is far more hopeful. It isn't you. It's your blood vessels crying out, suffocating under acidity, inflammation, and restriction. You are battling a physical barrier, not a personal weakness, and that barrier can be changed. Because once you restore that lost flow, once you open the pathways that deliver blood, oxygen, and nitric oxide, the transformation can feel like a miracle. Men who thought their best years were over suddenly feel warmth returning to places they feared were gone forever. They feel strength again. They feel alive again. And yes, they feel like men again. So the question now becomes, what destroys that blood flow so aggressively after 60? What is the silent enemy tightening those vessels, choking performance, stealing energy, and aging the body from the inside out? In the next section, you'll discover the hidden force robbing millions of men of their power, and how stopping it could unlock everything. 3. Inflammation, the silent enemy destroying performance. Most men think the greatest threat to their performance is low testosterone, aging, or stress. But what if the real killer is something you cannot see, cannot feel, and yet it's quietly attacking you every single day? A hidden fire burning inside your blood vessels, destroying the very foundation of male strength long before symptoms appear. That silent threat is inflammation, and it may be the reason everything changed without warning. Imagine a slow-burning fire smoldering beneath the surface, never loud enough to trigger alarms, but always hot enough to weaken the structure from within. That is exactly what inflammation does to your circulatory system. It irritates and scars the delicate lining of your blood vessels, the endothelium, the place where erections begin. When that lining is damaged, it can no longer release nitric oxide, the molecule that tells your vessels to open wide and let blood rush in with power. Without nitric oxide, there is no rise, no firmness, no ability to stay strong. The body wants to respond, but the fire has burned the wiring that sends the signal. I remember sitting across from a man named Robert, 67 years old, a former Marine with the strongest handshake I've ever felt. He looked me in the eye and said, "Doc, I've survived war, loss, and pain, but nothing has broken me the way this has." He wasn't talking about illness. He was talking about the quiet humiliation of wanting to be close to his wife and feeling his body collapse under him. Tests showed normal testosterone, normal heart function, normal everything. Except one. Inflammation markers were dangerously high. Inside his bloodstream, a war was raging, and he didn't even know. That's why so many men say, I feel fine, but something isn't working. Because inflammation doesn't scream, it whispers. Slowly tightening vessels, slowly choking flow, slowly shutting down the ability to respond. And when performance fails, men blame age, when really they're losing a battle they never even knew they were fighting. But here is the powerful truth. When you calm that inflammation, when you cool that fire and restore the delicate lining of your blood vessels, nitric oxide can surge back to life. And when nitric oxide returns, so does strength, warmth, and confidence. So the real question becomes, how do you calm this silent fire quickly, naturally, and safely, without another prescription bottle on your nightstand? The answer is shockingly simple, and in the next section, you'll discover the surprising ingredient that can begin cooling inflammation and restoring blood flow in as little as 24 hours. 4. Baking soda, the alkaline switch that reopens blood flow. What if I told you that one of the most powerful tools to restore blood flow, calm inflammation, and reignite male performance isn't a medication, a supplement, or an expensive treatment, but a simple white powder sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now? Something so ordinary that most men would never believe it could affect their lives so deeply. Baking soda. Yes, baking soda. And before you dismiss that as ridiculous, understand this. The science behind it is real, and its impact can feel nothing short of incredible. Here's the shocking truth. When your body becomes too acidic, your blood vessels tighten like a clenched fist. Oxygen delivery drops. Blood flow weakens. Inflammation spreads. And the system responsible for erections, the nitric oxide pathway, shuts down. It's the internal equivalent of trying to run an engine filled with dirty, thick oil. The machine isn't broken, it's suffocating, but just a small shift in your blood chemistry can change that entire environment. That's where baking soda comes in. When used correctly and safely, this simple compound, sodium bicarbonate, gently reduces excess acidity in the bloodstream. It helps restore a healthier pH, which allows blood vessels to relax, improves cellular oxygen use, and supports nitric oxide production. Think of it as opening a valve that has been rusted shut for years. Suddenly, blood begins to move again. Warmth returns. Energy wakes up. The lights in the body turn back on. I have watched men who felt hopeless experience change they thought was impossible. One man, 69 years old, told me, "Doc, I felt something I haven't felt in years, not just in my body, but in my spirit. Because this isn't just physical, it's dignity, it's identity. It's the return of a part of life no man wants to lose." The beauty is in its simplicity. A small morning serving, a glass of warm water, and a shift begins. Slowly, gently, naturally. No shame, no fear, no side effects that steal more than they give. Just restoration, a reboot, a second chance. And while it may sound unbelievable, the results speak for themselves. Improved circulation, warmer extremities, stronger morning response, deeper energy, clearer mind. Not months from now, many men feel a difference within days. But baking soda is only one part of the equation, because even if blood begins to flow, there is another critical factor determining whether you can rise, stay strong, and last. It's a piece almost every man overlooks, yet without it, nothing holds. And in the next section, you'll discover the oxygen secret that decides whether your performance lives or dies. 5. Oxygen, the fuel that keeps a man firm, strong, and alert. Most men don't realize this, but every erection depends on one thing more than anything else: oxygen. Not testosterone, not desire. Oxygen. Without it, the muscles responsible for holding blood in place simply cannot function. They collapse. They weaken. They give up halfway through. And here is the shocking truth that doctors rarely explain. After 60, the body's ability to deliver oxygen to those critical muscles drops drastically. Not because you're old, but because restricted blood flow and inflammation suffocate the very tissue that creates and maintains firmness. Imagine trying to keep a fire burning without air. You can pile on all the wood you want, but without oxygen, the flames die out. That is exactly what happens inside a man's body when oxygen delivery falls short. There may be desire, There may be blood entering, but without oxygen feeding those smooth muscles, the pressure fades, the strength disappears, and everything collapses before it reaches full power. It is not a failure of manhood, it is a failure of fuel. I remember a man named Thomas, 72, a retired firefighter who spent his life running into burning buildings to save others. When he sat across from me in my office, his voice shook not from physical pain, but from emotional defeat. He said, "Doc, I can feel everything inside me trying, but it's like the engine won't catch. I can't hold anything. It slips away." That sentence broke my heart, because what he described is exactly what oxygen starvation feels like. The body is willing, but the muscles are gasping. And this is where the connection becomes powerful. When baking soda restores a healthier pH balance and opens the pathways, oxygen begins to flow back into the tissues that have been starved for years. The muscles wake up, they strengthen, they hold, warmth returns, pressure rises. Men who thought their bodies were finished suddenly feel life returning from the inside out, not artificial, not forced, natural. Because the truth is, an erection is not a moment. It is an oxygen system. Feed it, and it thrives. Starve it, and it dies. So here's the question every man must ask himself. If oxygen is the fuel, who is controlling the engine that decides how long you last and how powerful you can be? The answer lies inside the tiny power generators within your cells, and unlocking them may be the key to stamina you thought was gone forever. And in the next section, you're going to discover how to reignite those engines and why it could change everything. 6. Mitochondria, the engines of stamina and lasting power. Here's a truth that shocks almost every man I share it with. Your ability to stay firm, stay strong, and stay in control during intimacy has far less to do with testosterone than you think, and everything to do with tiny engines inside your cells called mitochondria. If those engines are weak, slowing, or suffocating, no amount of desire, effort, or even medication can keep you going. You start strong, but you fade, you lose pressure. You run out of fuel, and suddenly the fight is over before it ever truly begins. These mitochondria are responsible for creating the energy your muscles need to maintain an erection. They convert oxygen into pure power, the kind of power that determines whether you stand strong or collapse halfway. But as we age, especially past 60, acid buildup and inflammation begin attacking those engines. They clog, they weaken, they break down. It's like trying to climb a hill with a dying battery. The spirit wants to keep going, but the equipment fails. I once treated a man named Gerald, 68, a retired mechanic who spent decades fixing engines. He looked at me with tears held tight behind his eyes and said, "Doc, it feels like my body just shuts off. I'm there 1 minute and gone the next." He thought he was losing his masculinity, his strength, his identity, but he wasn't. His mitochondria were simply starving. His body wasn't failing him, it was begging for fuel. And here is where the connection becomes life-changing. When baking soda reduces excess acidity and restores balance inside your blood, those cellular engines begin to wake up again. Oxygen reaches them. The spark returns. The engine turns over with power instead of sputtering and dying. Men who felt like they were fading suddenly feel drive, stamina, and lasting strength returning. Not in theory, in reality. This is why some men say, after just a few weeks of restoring that internal environment, I don't stall anymore. I feel like the engine finally catches. Because once your mitochondria reignite, you stop surviving intimacy and start living it again. You stop hoping you'll last, and know you will. But there's another piece most men completely overlook. Even if your engines are strong, they cannot respond unless your body can actually hear the signal telling it to rise. And for millions of men over 60, that signal has gone silent. In the next section, you'll discover why hormones may not be the problem, and how the real solution could wake your body up faster than you ever imagined. 7. Hormone resistance. When your body stops listening to testosterone. Most men assume that when performance begins to fail, the answer is more testosterone. More injections, more gels, more pills. But here's the shocking truth almost no one tells you. For many men over 60, the problem isn't low testosterone at all. It's that your body has stopped listening to the testosterone you already have. Your levels might look perfectly normal on paper, yet your body acts like they're empty. It's like trying to shout through a wall. Your message is strong, but no one hears it. This condition is called hormone resistance, and it's one of the most devastating but misunderstood reasons men lose drive, energy, and physical response. Inflammation, poor blood flow, and acid buildup damage the receptors on your cells that are supposed to receive testosterone signal. So even when your brain says go, even when your heart wants connection, your body whispers back, "I can't hear you." And that disconnect doesn't just affect the body, it cuts into the heart. I sat with a man named Martin, 64, a retired police officer who spent decades protecting others. He told me quietly, trying to keep his voice from breaking, "Doc, I still feel like a warrior in my mind, but when it matters, nothing happens. It's like I'm trapped inside my own skin." His testosterone was completely normal, but his receptors were shut down, blocked by inflammation and stagnation. His body wasn't broken, just out of balance. And here is where the power of restoring internal chemistry becomes so profound. When you use tools like baking soda to reduce acid stress, calm inflammation, and reopen circulation, those hormone receptors begin to wake up again. Suddenly, the same testosterone that once fell silent begins shouting through loud and clear. The fire reignites, motivation returns, desire rises naturally, and the body finally responds the way the heart has been waiting for. Men often describe the change the same way. It's like someone flipped a switch back on. Not artificial, not forced, alive. Because masculinity isn't measured by numbers on a lab report, but by connection between body, mind, and chemistry. So now the real question becomes this. Even if your hormones respond, even if your energy rises and your drive returns, what is still blocking performance for millions of men, leaving them feeling heavy, tired, and slowed down from the inside? The answer lies in something far more destructive than aging itself. And in the next section, you'll uncover the metabolic force silently draining strength from men everywhere, and how reversing it could change your life. 8. Detox and metabolism, the hidden weight dragging your body down. Here's a shocking truth that almost no man realizes until it's already stealing years from his life. The reason you feel heavy, tired, and slower than you used to isn't just aging. It's the toxic burden building silently inside your bloodstream. A burden made of chemical waste, sugar swings, processed food residue, alcohol byproducts, and medication overload that your liver and kidneys can no longer keep up with. When the body becomes overwhelmed like this, blood thickens, energy collapses, and performance suffers long before anything shows up on a medical scan. I've sat across from countless men who tell me the same story. "Doc, I'm doing everything right, eating better, walking every day, but I still feel exhausted, like I'm dragging a backpack full of bricks everywhere I go." And it's heartbreaking, because I can see the pain behind their eyes. They're not just tired, they feel defeated. They feel like they're losing control over a body that once carried them with power and ease. They blame themselves, thinking they're weak, undisciplined, or past their prime. But the truth is far more compassionate. Their bodies are drowning under internal weight, and they don't even know it. When toxins accumulate and blood sugar swings wildly, inflammation surges, vessels tighten, and the entire energy system begins to collapse. The heart works harder, the liver strains, the kidneys fight to keep up, and the body shifts into survival mode instead of performance mode. That is why intimacy begins to fail, not because desire is gone, but because chemistry is overloaded. You cannot expect a machine to race if its engine is full of sludge. And here is where the connection becomes powerful. When baking soda helps reduce acidity and lighten that internal load, the detox organs finally get a moment to breathe. Blood flows more freely. Waste gets cleared. Sugar stabilizes. Cravings fade. Men often tell me that within weeks they feel lighter, not just physically, but emotionally. Suddenly they wake up with energy instead of exhaustion. Their minds feel sharper. Their bodies feel alive again. And yes, intimacy begins to feel real and effortless instead of pressured and frightening. Because when metabolism stabilizes, hormones balance naturally. When blood runs clean, performance feels effortless, and when the body stops fighting to survive, it finally has the freedom to enjoy living again. But even restoring detox and metabolism still leaves one more powerful force standing between a man and his strongest performance, something far more powerful than chemistry or hormones. It is the invisible system that decides whether the body opens up or shuts down completely. In the next section, you'll discover the nervous system switch that can either destroy performance or unlock it with breathtaking power. 9. The nervous system switch. When stress shuts a man down. Here is something almost no man understands until it's already destroying his confidence. Your body cannot perform if your nervous system is stuck in survival mode. You can have desire, you can have love, you can have every intention of showing up fully. But if your brain senses stress, danger, or tension, it flips a switch that shuts everything down instantly. Blood drains away from the core, muscles tighten, breathing shortens, and the very system responsible for intimacy collapses no matter how badly you want it. I've seen strong men, leaders, veterans, fathers, husbands, look me in the eye with tears they refuse to let fall and say, "Doc, I freeze. I want it, but my body refuses to respond." And they say it with shame, thinking it's weakness or failure, but it's not. It's biology. When the nervous system is locked in fight or flight mode, the body believes survival is more important than connection, and so it shuts off the ability to perform because nature designed intimacy only for safety, not fear. Many men over 60 live in a constant state of hidden stress, pressure that never lets up, the fear of aging, the fear of disappointing their partner, the fear of losing control, years of carrying emotional weight with nowhere to set it down, and inside them, a nervous system that never gets the signal to relax. That internal tension can crush performance more violently than any physical illness. The tragedy is that men blame themselves. They think, "I'm failing, I'm broken, I'm not the man I used to be," but the truth is far more human. Their bodies are fighting to protect them, not betray them. They just never learned how to flip the switch from survival mode to connection mode. And this is where the story becomes powerful. Because when baking soda helps calm internal acidity and relax blood vessels, the nervous system begins to shift out of fight or flight and into rest and restore, the only state where intimacy can happen. The breath deepens, muscles soften, blood returns to the places it needs to be. And for the first time in years, many men tell me, "I finally felt present. I wasn't fighting myself anymore." That moment is not about performance. It's about relief. It's about peace. It's about coming home to your own body again. But even when the nervous system opens the door, one last enemy can still sabotage everything. Something hiding inside the blood vessels that determines whether strength holds or collapses. And in the next section, you'll discover the structural weakness that steals performance from millions of men and how fixing it can unlock the return of power you thought was gone forever. 10. Vascular flexibility. Why firmness fails. When the walls collapse. Most men never hear this terrifying truth from their doctor. Your ability to get hard and stay hard depends on the flexibility of your blood vessels. If those vessels can't expand and stretch wide open, it doesn't matter how much blood your heart pumps, nothing meaningful will reach the places where a man needs it most. And here's the shocking reality. After 60, those vessels begin to stiffen like dry, cracked rubber. They lose their ability to expand. They become rigid, narrow, and unresponsive. And that quiet structural collapse is one of the leading reasons erections weaken, fade too quickly, or vanish entirely. I once treated a man named Harold, 71, who looked at me with a mixture of anger and grief and said, "Doctor, I feel the desire burning inside me, but when the moment comes, it's like there's a wall between my brain and my body. Nothing moves. Nothing gets through." He thought his masculinity was failing him. He thought he had crossed some invisible line where life's most intimate pleasures were simply over. But what he didn't know, and what most men don't, is that his vessels were locked shut, unable to expand enough to carry the blood that creates strength and firmness. His heart was trying, his mind was trying, his desire was alive, but the structure itself was broken. That stiffness doesn't happen overnight. It's years of micro-damage, inflammation, acidity, poor oxygen, and stress hardening the arterial walls. It's like trying to water a garden through a hose that's kinked, crushed, and dried out from the sun. You can turn the pressure up all you want, nothing flows. And when nothing flows, intimacy becomes a battlefield instead of a connection. Men withdraw, partners worry, silence replaces affection, and inside, a man begins to crumble, believing the lie that he is finished. But here is where hope returns. When you restore the internal chemistry of the blood, when acidity drops, inflammation cools, and oxygen surges back into the tissues, those vessels begin to soften again. Flexibility returns. Space opens. Blood can finally rush in with force instead of struggling through a narrow, rigid channel. That is why so many men report warmth returning to their hands, feet, and yes, their most important muscles, sometimes within days of correcting the internal environment. The structure reawakens, the response strengthens, confidence rises. Because an erection is not a mystery, it is physics, it is pressure, it is flow. When the walls expand, the system works. When they don't, nothing can. So now that you understand the structural problem stealing performance from millions of men, the final question becomes, how do you activate this transformation each morning so the body can rebuild instead of breaking down? In the next section, you'll learn the simple morning ritual that thousands of men are now using to reignite circulation, restore flexibility, and revive confidence from the inside out. 11. The morning ritual that awakens circulation and strength. Here is something that shocks most men when they first hear it. The strength of your performance at night is determined by what you do in the first 10 minutes after you wake up each morning. Not by pills, not by supplements, not by what you eat for dinner. The real switch that ignites blood flow, restores vessel flexibility, and signals the nervous system to open rather than shut down, happens before the sun is even fully up. And yet almost no man over 60 has ever been told this simple truth. I remember a patient named Leonard, 68 years old, who walked into my office leaning heavily on his cane. His voice was tired, his eyes dull, and he said, "Doctor, I'm losing myself. I wake up every morning feeling defeated before the day even starts." He wasn't just battling physical weakness, he was fighting emotional exhaustion, the silent heaviness that comes from believing life is shrinking instead of expanding. Like many men, he had accepted the idea that aging meant surrender. But the day he learned this morning ritual, everything changed. The body is like a sleeping engine. When you wake up, your blood is thick, vessels are narrow, breathing is shallow, and circulation is at its weakest point. If you start the day in that state, the body stays in shutdown mode. But when you apply the right combination of hydration, alkalinity, deep breathing, and gentle activation, the system switches into performance mode, blood vessels open. Oxygen floods in, inflammation cools, and circulation surges like a river after a storm. That is the moment when your body decides what kind of day and what kind of night you will have. This is why combining baking soda with warm water, deep diaphragmatic breathing, and simple joint activation, first thing in the morning can create a dramatic shift. The alkalinity reduces internal acidity that stiffens vessels. The hydration thins and moves the blood. The breathing signals the nervous system to relax, opening the pathway for flow. And the movement warms the muscles and awakens circulation. I've had men tell me that within days they felt a pulse of life they thought was gone forever. Within weeks, warmth and firmness returned. Within months, their confidence was reborn. And what touched me most was Leonard telling me through a trembling smile, "For the first time in years, I felt like a man again." Because at the heart of every struggle is one simple longing, to feel alive, powerful, connected, and present in the moments that matter most. Now that you understand how this morning ritual begins to restore strength from the inside out, the final piece of this journey is waiting. How exactly does baking soda supercharge this process? And how should a man over 60 use it safely to experience real, lasting transformation? In the conclusion, I'll reveal the step-by-step method and the scientific reasoning behind it. Conclusion: a new beginning for strength, confidence, and connection. If you've stayed with me until this moment, It tells me something powerful about you. You are not a man who gives up. You are not a man who accepts decline as destiny. You are a man who still believes in life, love, and the right to feel strong in his own skin. And you deserve that. Every man does. The truth is simple, but profound. Your body is not failing you. It is waiting for you, waiting for flow to return, waiting for chemistry to rebalance, waiting for pressure and fear to lift, waiting for circulation and confidence to rise again like sunrise after a long night. And now you understand how something as humble and overlooked as baking soda, combined with the right morning ritual, can help unlock that transformation from the inside out. Not a pill that forces, but a shift that restores. Not a shortcut, but a return to the man you once knew and still are. I've seen men in their late 60s, 70s, even 80s revive intimacy, rebuild energy, and rediscover joy they thought was forever lost. Their stories are real, their strength is real, and your story can be next. Because the greatest mistake any man can make is believing he is too late. Right now, you stand at the doorway of a new chapter, and in a moment, I'm going to show you exactly how to begin, step by step, safely, confidently, and with results you can feel. The only question is, are you ready to take that first step?